Welcome. We're very happy that you've decided to join us for these 3 short but important reflections. Yes, they are reflections. No lectures, no long talks, no discussions, but reflection. Now, we all remember what a reflection is and how important it is. We constantly pick up our mirrors to see what our hair looks like or the beard or something. We need to see ourselves clearly and in a different way. And we also know what a reflection is like when we look into the cool, clear waters of a lake or a river. And we notice the trees on the opposite banks or the mountains or the people walking past. And we suddenly notice things we never saw before. Things we sure we knew. And we look and say, good gracious, I never saw that house there. And we look again, and yes, there is a house there on the opposite side of the river. So reflection. Reflection is an experience which helps us to see more deeply into the reality we are so familiar with. Helps us to see, to have a deeper insight into its meaning. And so that's what we're doing for these 3 short reflections. We're going to look at some things that are very ordinary in everyday life, we know quite well. We're not going to discuss them, search for information, statistics, arguments to prove somebody's right or wrong. No. Just to look more deeply into the reality around us. And so, we're starting with today's reflection. They have been given the title, Travel with Light Luggage. So we're going to start with the word travel. It seems strange to think of traveling at a time when most of us around the world have experienced or are still experiencing lockdown, restrictions, no chance of traveling at all. No planes flying, borders of different countries we might want to visit blocked and closed. We may not even be able to go out and visit our family in our own town. This all because of this coronavirus, which came to us as a crisis. Now, the crisis is over its peak now in most countries. There are others who are still coming to that point, but we will move through the crisis. And we have learned a great deal about ourselves and the way we live because of the crisis. And this one of travel, when our travel is severely restricted, we're constantly getting the message, stay at home, keep a distance, stop the virus from spreading by not traveling. And yet most of us are wanting to travel. And perhaps it is a point where we have to look at life and see, why is traveling the freedom to move? Why is this so important to us as human beings? Well, frankly, as human beings, we're all travelers. We're constant travelers. We're moving, we're changing. Our environment is moving and changing. I mean, just look at it. This is how we live. The globe is going round on its axis and spinning round and spinning round the sun in constant movement. It's traveling. And so are we. Night and day, second by millisecond, constantly changing, moving. We are travelers. All of us, all life travels from beginning, birth, to end, death. It is a journey. We're all on the journey, and there are no exceptions. No. Look around and see. My life is a journey from birth to death. We're used to thinking of journeys as from one place to another. But on this, it's a question of constant change and travel. So, travel. It's good at a point to stop at this point where our movement away from our homes or our countries has been restricted, and just look at my life as a journey. From the moment I was born until the moment the journey ends, I will be changing, I will be challenged, I will be moving. I'm on a journey. All of us. How did the journey start? Where did life's journey start? Did it have a beginning? We know that our life's journey has a beginning and an end, but life itself, how did all this come into being? These are the questions, they're called the P&U questions, the perennial questions. They're asked by each human being about his or her own life's journey throughout the whole course of humanity. Where has this come from? Where is it going to? This journey we call life. And it's not only human life. You think of vegetable life, vegetative life, you think of animal life, you think of the stars, coming into being, traveling for centuries, for millions of years, then crashing or burning out. Everything that exists is on a journey through space and time, from beginning to end. So, for this traveling, for this point in our reflection, we just take the fact that my life is a journey through space-time. Some of us have been traveling for many years, some of us for not so many years. But travel we have, and travel we will continue to do until it ends. There are many things about this traveling, but the one, perhaps the most important, is the one I've just mentioned. Asking ourselves, where did this begin? And where is it going to end? Is there a source from which life came and into which life will return? This physical, psychological, transitory life? Well, many ways we have been offered answers to that during the centuries, because we have been looking for the answers for the whole of our human history. We've been looking for the answer. And we've got our answers sometimes from the philosophers and the theologians, the thinkers of the great traditions, who've offered us explanations and images and advice about traveling. All the religious traditions have answers to those questions. But science has also offered us answers to the same questions. Where has all this come from? Where is it going to? Whereas the philosophers have offered us, and the religious traditions have offered us explanations, images, understanding. The scientists have very often answered our questions by saying, We don't know. We're exploring. Or even so, there is no source from which it has all come. It's all a little unexpected and out of control, like the Big Bang is a popular theory we all know about. Is there a source for this journey in space-time, which I make, and the fish in the little pond at the bottom of the garden, and our next-door neighbors, the great planets, we all make this journey. Whether we're a small flower in the garden that grows and comes to life from a seed, and then dies, having given its seed for another generation. Or whether we are two massive objects in space that come into existence, travel, and eventually crash into each other or burn out, but end. Travel from beginning to end. And did we come from one source? Now, at this point in our journey here, it's good to stop, and I hope you will, before now and tomorrow. You stop and ask yourself, what have I learned through the years I have been traveling in space and time? What have I learned about the possibility of a source, of a great reality that isn't brought into existence and doesn't die out of existence, an ultimate reality, a final reality? If you have accepted the teaching of any tradition or any scientific theory, have a look at it again today in the context of your own journey. Where have I come from? Where am I going to? Is there a purpose? Is there a why? It's time to reflect on the answers we have given to ourselves, perhaps for a very long time, and really look at them again. Travel. Traveling. Second by second, from birth to death. From where to where? And then comes the question, why? Is there a purpose? If I have decided that yes, there is a source from which all life has come and to which all life belongs and will return, what have I learned about the source during my journey, during the years that I have been traveling so far? So although the coronavirus has prevented you perhaps going to work and you had to work from home, or visiting your friends and relatives in another part of the country, or planning for your summer holidays, and all the other things we think that's our time of travel. Even now, we are traveling. No single one of us is exactly the same person as we were when we began this viewing, this reflection this afternoon. We're certainly not the same person as we were when we woke up this morning. We lived so many hours of the journey. We've traveled. We're different. The environment's different. Now, when you start thinking in this way again, the question of a source, whether there is a source and an ultimate meaning and purpose, or there isn't, becomes the main question for us to find an answer to, no matter how long we've been traveling. So, within the next 24 hours until we meet again, if you want to keep this in mind and go on reflecting so that your understanding deepens, you're seeing things from a new perspective, you're noticing things you hadn't noticed before, you could do it many different ways. If you're a person who likes doodling with a pen and paper, take a piece of paper and draw the main events of your life's journey until now and see why they were so important on life's journey. That's one thing. Or again, notice the different answers you have given as you have gone through life's journey to those questions. Well, where did I come from? When I first started asking those questions, probably asking them of my parents, when I was a very small child, or when I went searching for myself as I thought I was growing up, or then when I wanted to forget them because the answers were too demanding, just have a look and see. What has been your journey with these questions? And where are you now? Travel. We can't avoid traveling. We're all traveling, as we said, millisecond by millisecond. We're moving on the planet Earth, but we're moving through our own life's journey, from its beginning to its end, which we do not know. These two most important events in our life we do not have control of. We know when we were born only because others told us we were born in this place at that day at this time. We wouldn't know unless we were told. And it's the same with our death, our moment of the end. We don't really know when that moment will come. So there is something of a mystery at the beginning and end of this journey. Could it have something to do with the cause, the source? Is the source of life basically a mystery? Because if it is, then our philosophy and our sciences, our words and our manipulation of our thoughts and our imagination, our mind will never give us the answer. Mind is not that you've heard, that you agree with, or that you don't agree with. And if you don't agree with something that you've just heard, then ask yourself, well, why not? Go more deeply. Get a new angle of perception onto the ordinary, everyday responses to the ordinary, everyday journey of life through which we are traveling. Great thanks to you all for being here, and let's hope we meet tomorrow.